Dinosaurs and man, we are told, are separated by at least 63 million years in the fossil record. But how true is that? What does the evidence really say about that? So to provide some context for this presentation, I would like to start off by referring you to this presentation by Neil deGrasse Tyson, which he delivered in Australia on religion versus science. Can the two coexist? Now, starting from about 8 minutes and 16 seconds on the YouTube video, he bemoans the fact that some New Jersey school teacher told his class that humans and dinosaurs coexisted. In a state of utmost contempt for the teacher, deGrasse Tyson mockingly refers to the teacher as scientifically illiterate. His reason for this conclusion about the teacher's scientifically illiterate state is the well-recognized fact that dinosaurs and humans, according to so-called science, are separated by about 63 million years in the fossil record. Some key questions, however, are: is science correct in its hypothesis that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years? Has science been objective in drawing this conclusion, examining all the possible scenarios provided by the facts? To answer these questions, I'm going to present 6 lines of evidence providing warning signs or red flags that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years. First of all, a living fossil from the Devonian. The first warning sign or red flag that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years came when, in 1938, off the coast of South Africa, a living coelacanth was caught by fishermen and has been subsequently caught 84 times between 1938 and 1975. It has also been photographed in its natural habitat on several occasions, including recently in November 2019. So here's that picture from 2019, the photograph of it in its natural habitat of Phumula in South Africa. So clearly this ancient creature is still alive. The big problem is that until 1938, as with the dinosaurs, the coelacanth fish was only known in the fossil record, especially in the Devonian, around 419 to 358 million years ago. This should be pointed out. It should be pointed out that the Devonian period occurs before the time of the dinosaurs, which were in the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. The fossil record age of the coelacanth is therefore older, we are told to believe, than the age of the dinosaurs. One would therefore never expect to find a living example of the coelacanth. If you won't expect to find a living example of dinosaurs, you would almost never expect to find something that's even older than dinosaurs in the fossil record. This is a big problem for evolutionary theory because, one, the coelacanth was supposed to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs. Two, the coelacanth has not changed in hundreds of millions of years since the Devonian. Yet, from the Devonian, we are told that massive evolutionary changes have occurred, such as the evolution of terrestrial organisms from aquatic organisms, and evolution of mammals from reptiles, evolution of flight, etc. All these huge evolutionary changes. Yet, in that time period, when all these massive changes have taken place, the coelacanth has stayed the same. So, the second big warning sign or red flag that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years came when DNA was extracted from fossils. In this paper, they report on DNA extraction from Magnolia latahensis in the fossil records, Clarkia fossil beds, 17 to 20 million years. So here's some photographs of these fossils from the Clarkia fossil beds, supposedly 17 to 20 million year old fossils. So they note that during DNA extraction, the solution became green in color, indicating the presence of chlorophyll in the extraction buffer after centrifugation, and suggesting that at least some chloroplasts remained intact until extraction. From M. latahensis, they determined 1,528 base pairs corresponding to positions 580 to 2085 on extant M. grandiflora. And interestingly, they found that the sequence of M. latahensis was identical to those previously reported for these extant flora. So the paper confirms that DNA sequences can be obtained from Miocene-age plant fossils, in contrast to the dire predictions of models from some authors, because these models are suggesting that DNA cannot possibly last this amount of time in the fossil record. And the other issue is that, again, these over 17 to 20 million years, nothing has changed in the DNA. Is it really that old, this DNA? It's a big problem. How can DNA remain undecomposed for 17 to 20 million years? It defies logic. So this is not the only study that's found this. Many studies now have managed to extract DNA from fossils, and this is another example here from even older fossils, 23 to 40 million years. And this was extracted from DNA of various bacteria that have a symbiosis in fossil bees. And yeah, it's interesting. How did these fossils, the DNA in these fossils survive intact for 23 to 40 million years? And yeah, just a similar example to what we see in the previous study. Then the next big red flag, the third warning sign or red flag that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years, came when soft tissue, blood vessels, red blood cells, and complex osteocyte cells were found in a dinosaur fossil. So here it is reported in Science, one of the top scientific journals in the world, that they managed to extract soft tissue from Tyrannosaurus rex bones. So here's photographs of the soft tissue. More than that, they identified all these complex structures like blood vessels and blood cells still remaining in these tissues. And that's again, how did these? And this is from, you know, the dinosaurs died out at least 65 million years, we are told. Yet here we find blood cells and blood vessels still remaining intact in these fossilized bones, supposedly for 65 million years. Again, this defies logic. Look at these osteocytes, also complex and you know, very complex structures still remaining intact. This is another study that also found uh, soft tissue in a dinosaur bone. This was from Triceratops horridus. And in these micrographs, you can see in 12, you can see what appears to be numerous blood cells within the blood vessels. And there in 13, you can see the blood vessel itself still surviving in these dinosaur fossils. Another example here, this study, they also showed, look at these complex osteocytes in Triceratops. Highly delicate, complex structures that are remaining as soft structures in these dinosaur fossils. How did they survive that long? And more than that, they're also showing that within the cell, you can see nucleus-like structures within the cell. So this is just amazing findings from dinosaur fossils. Another example here, blood vessels and red blood cells in dinosaur bones, in another journal. So these studies, it's not just one study, but a suite of studies that are now coming out showing these findings of soft tissue, blood vessels, blood cells, etc. in dinosaur bones. Then another example, the fourth warning sign or red flag that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years came when bacterial spores from the abdomen of fossilized bees were revived, i.e. they were found to be viable and living after being supposedly fossilized for 25 to 40 million years. So in this study, also published in Science, they managed to extract bacterial spores from the abdomen of a fossilized bee, which is in 25 to 40 million year old Dominican amber. And more than just get the spore out, they managed to revive it, get it living again. That's just crazy. Absolutely crazy finding that something can still be viable after supposedly 25 to 40 million years in a fossilized state. That just defies logic, and it suggests there's some major problems with how old we are trying to say these fossils are. As they say, the results of morphological, biochemical, enzymatic, and molecular characterization of isolate BCA16 support the hypothesis that a viable B. sphericus spore was indeed recovered from the abdominal contents of P. dominica, entombed in 25 to 40 million year old amber. The putatively ancient isolate resembles known endosymbionts of modern bees. So they're also saying it's very similar to known endosymbionts from modern bees, from the bacteria of modern bees. And that again, these things don't seem to change after so much time. So the fifth warning sign or red flag that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years came when the uranium to lead isotope ratio in radioactive halos in Cretaceous coal, and remember Cretaceous was around at least 65 million years ago, suggests the coal was deposited only several thousand years ago. These isotope ratios suggest that. So here, this paper also published in Science, and they managed to look at the uranium to lead ratios in these radio halos. So they say, for example, if the uranium to lead ratio is indicative of the formation time of the radio center, it is more recent by at least a factor of 270 than the minimum Cretaceous, and more recent by a factor of 760 than the maximum Triassic geological age, estimated for the introduction of uranium into the logs. Such extraordinary values admit the possibility that both the initial U infiltration and qualification could possibly have occurred within the past several thousand years, because the uranium was supposed to have broken down much more than expected if it had been millions and millions of years. If remobilization is not the explanation, then these ratios raise some crucial questions about the validity of present concepts regarding the antiquity of these geological formations and about the time required for qualification. So again, we've seen example after example of red flags being raised about how old we are trying to say these sediments are and the fossils in these sediments. Then, so if we move away from pure hard science, where we saw 5 key lines of evidence, all raising red flags about the age of these sediments and fossils, we now move into archaeology, and we again see some major issues being raised. So the 6th warning sign or red flag that something is horribly wrong with the currently accepted paradigm that humans and dinosaurs are separated by at least 63 million years came when a whole series of archaeological and anthropological findings suggest that man and dinosaurs must have coexisted. These are, first of all, first examples I'll give are the Ica stones from South America, which are burial stones buried in these tombs of these Indian tribes there, thousands of years old. And what do we see? We see engravings on these stones of dinosaurs, interestingly with humans. Here we see an example of a dinosaur attacking a human. And here we see, interestingly, all these different types of dinosaurs, sauropods, we see triceratops, we see stegosaurus, dinosaurs that were not known to science even within the last few hundred years. Only in the last few hundred years did we really begin to get an idea what these dinosaurs look like. Yet these ancient tribes seem to have a clear idea. Here again, other examples: people riding on dinosaurs, and there's been people have tried to say, these stones are forgeries. They're not as old as we're trying to say they are. But this has been analyzed. They've been looked at and been sent to a whole range of independent labs, and all the labs have have noted that these stones appear to be ancient. Okay, so this article, you can see it in Journal of Creation. They describe how they sent it to all the different labs. They describe the results, and like any other scientific paper, you have to assume that they are providing valid results. They're not fraudulently reporting results. So if you're going to read any other paper in science, then you have to accept that these guys, this is what they did, this is what they're reporting, this is what they found. These things are not new, they're not forgeries. So put that aside, we know these Indian cave paintings are definitely ancient, okay? And what do we see again? Corroborating these Indian Ica stones, we see man and dinosaurs being painted on these rock walls. Here you can see the enhanced thing showing a sauropod type dinosaur. You can see the original and the enhanced just to help you see it a bit more clearly on the rock. And again, in another example, the previous example, I think it was the Grand Canyon, and then this example is outside Los Lunas in New Mexico. Here we see painted by the Sioux Indians near Lake Superior. We see this strange creature which they call Mishi Peshu. Here we see paintings of them hunting it. Okay, and interestingly, it looks very similar to what we know in science as Ankylosaurus. Okay, so another example. Here we see in the Grand Canyon uh, paintings of man hunting these sauropod-looking dinosaurs. Another example here from Peru, man hunting sauropod-looking dinosaurs. Interesting. Yeah, from all these different regions, we're seeing these dinosaurs appearing. Here from the Grand Canyon, this was an engraving in the rock, which was discovered in 1879. Okay, and it appears to be a sauropod dinosaur again in these cave paintings. We go across to Cambodia. This is Ta Prohm Temple, Siem Reap, Cambodia. The temple was constructed in 1186. Okay, so a long time ago. Okay, yet what do we find engraved in the walls in the temple? We see Stegosaurus. How did again? How did these people know what these dinosaurs looked like when science only knew what they looked like several hundred, up to 100, 200 years ago? We were only really beginning to piece together what dinosaurs looked like. So we're seeing this wherever we go around the world, that the ancient people are painting or engraving these dinosaurs and all the different types that we know of today. So we go to China and we look at the Chinese calendar. People have wondered why the Chinese calendar has 11 real creatures and one mythical creature, the dragon. So 11 months it's represented by real creatures, and in one of the months it's represented by a dragon. Why would you choose one mythical creature and 11 real creatures? Could it be that the dragon is not mythical at all, but really a dinosaur? The Chinese word for dinosaur bones is the same as the word for dragon. Marco Polo, in his travels in China wrote in his book, The Travels of Marco Polo the Venetian, leaving the city of Yacho and traveling 10 days in a westerly direction, you reach the province of Karazhan, which is also the name of its chief city. Here are seen huge serpents, 10 paces in length and 10 spans in the girth of its body. At the fore of the body near the head, they have 2 short legs. What does that remind you of? Tyrannosaurus, having 3 claws like those of a tiger, with eyes larger than a 4-penny loaf and very glaring. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man. The teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror. So here we are seeing Marco Polo describing some dinosaur-like creature. And what else does he say? Um, by their motion in this way along the shore and their vast weight, they make a deep depression as if a heavy beam had been drawn along the sands. Those whose employment is to hunt them, you see again, we see examples, as we saw with the North American and South American Indians painting man hunting dinosaurs. Here we see a description of man hunting dinosaurs. Those whose employment is to hunt them observe the track by which they are most frequently accustomed to go, and fix into the ground several pieces of wood armed with sharp iron spikes, which they cover with sand in such a manner as to not be perceptible. When thereafter the animals make their way towards the places they usually haunt, they are wounded by these instruments and speedily killed. So this account of the Chinese hunting dinosaurs accords well with paintings of South American and North American Indians hunting dinosaurs, together with the Congo people testifying about hunting dinosaurs, and we'll get to that as well. It seems that dinosaurs have been eliminated worldwide by people killing them, as we see happening to large predators and large herbivores outside conservation areas. People kill wild animals for 2 reasons. 1, they hunt them for meat. This is well known. 2, through human-wildlife conflicts, where predators kill livestock and people are injured by herbivores or have problems with herbivores, such as elephants or hippos, whatever, damage their crops, and people hunt them, or lions that kill their livestock. They hunt them and kill them off. That's why you don't often see these sort of animals outside protected areas. So this is well known. Human-wildlife conflicts in science, it's well recognized as a major threat to the survival of many species. So here we see 2 recent papers reporting on the dangers of human-wildlife conflict for survival of carnivores and other species. Wolves were eliminated from Europe and USA because of human-wildlife conflict. Dinosaurs were likely eliminated by humans because of hunting for food, as described in these cave paintings and text, and because of human-wildlife conflict. By contrast, the coelacanth, which we still find living, even though it's older than the dinosaurs, we still find it living. And why? Because it's A, it doesn't cause human-wildlife conflict, and B, it occurs only in deep water habitats where it couldn't have been hunted, not until with modern technology. So this really explains then, this provides a logical explanation of why we don't see dinosaurs today. They have been eliminated by hunting and human-wildlife conflicts. The coelacanth, which doesn't get hunted and which didn't cause human-wildlife conflict, is still existing today, even though older than the dinosaurs. So cave paintings of people hunting dinosaurs is in accordance with anthropological studies in the Congo forests, where the local people confirm that even within their lifetime, they hunted a sauropod-type creature, which they confirm when shown pictures of sauropods. So anthropologists have shown them these pictures. Is it an elephant? No. Is it a hippo? No. But when they're shown a sauropod dinosaur, yes, that's what it is. And they claim that they hunt this animal. Their local name for this animal, and it's well known all over the Congo in different countries, from DRC and Cameroon. It's called Mokele Mbembe. Okay, and attempts to find this sauropod have yielded potential footprints and browsing evidence high in trees, but no actual sightings of the animal, which is not surprising because if it's been hunted for years and years and years, it's going to avoid areas where there's people. It's likely its population has been reduced to very low levels, or even it may have become extinct by now. So you're very unlikely to find it. Even if there are, say, 10 to 20 individuals left in those vast swamps, it's a region of vast swamps. It's any expedition that goes there is really the probability, or it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, especially in these inaccessible forests and things. Chances of finding one of these creatures when they're so few in number in such a vast area is negligible. So it's no surprise that recent expeditions to find it, which spend maybe a month, 2 months at most looking for it, there's just no chance that they're going to see it. And perhaps it doesn't even exist anymore. It might be eliminated through hunting. But at least they've managed to get photographs of the footprints of the animal. They never saw the animal, but they've got these footprints which were estimated about 40 to 45 centimeters wide. And it's this strange creature. It can't be anything that we know of today. It's not an elephant footprint. It's not a hippo footprint. Not at that size. And not at that shape either. So this is interesting. And this is not the only. We even if we go to the Bible, which these texts from the Bible are probably at least 3,000 years old. Okay, and yet they give very accurate descriptions of a brontosaurus-like creature. If we look at Job chapter 40, verse 15 to 19, it says, in verse 17, it says, its tail sways like a cedar. What animal do we know with a tail like a cedar? What big animal do we know? Elephants, they don't have that sort of a tail. They have a small little tail. Not this huge tail like a cedar. Hippos are weeny little tail. Doesn't fit those descriptions at all. And what did we know that's had some huge tail like a cedar tree? Well, Brontosaurus. And interestingly, it says in verse 19, it ranks first amongst the works of God. That corroborates exactly what we know in science. That science says Brontosaurus was the biggest land animal, terrestrial animal that ever existed. And the Bible says the same. It ranks first amongst the works of God. So, again, another example. So, yeah, both scientific and archaeological evidence raise serious red flags about the validity of the currently accepted paradigm of the age of fossils being millions of years old. Both scientific and archaeological evidence suggests that dinosaurs and humans likely coexisted. The reason for such conclusions are scientific evidence shows that the Devonian fossilized fish are still living, even though they're older than dinosaurs. DNA can be extracted from supposed 20 to 40 million year fossils. Supposed 20 to 40 million year bacterial spores are still viable and living. 65 million year old dinosaur bones have soft tissue, red blood cells, blood vessels, and bone cells. And these radioactive halos in coal suggest that they're only a few thousand years old. The archaeological evidence shows that ancient cultures across all regions, not just one region, but all across the globe, have cave paintings, carvings, and descriptions of dinosaurs long before science described them. These archaeological findings, together with evidence from viable DNA, bacterial spores in fossils, soft tissue and blood vessels in dinosaur bones, provides too much evidence, all taken all together, to consider this as coincidence. This is just really a massive amount of evidence suggesting that these fossilized dinosaurs are not as old as we are led to believe. Humans, it appears, likely coexisted with dinosaurs. With all the evidence that I've presented today, I want to revisit the statement made by Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I referred to at the beginning of this presentation. deGrasse Tyson scoffed at the statement by the high school teacher that Noah had dinosaurs on the ark, noting that this was impossible because dinosaurs became extinct millions of years before man existed. So to deGrasse Tyson, he said this guy's scientifically illiterate. Well, uh, does Neil deGrasse Tyson not know about the evidence that I've presented today? Or more likely, does he choose to ignore it because it violates his worldview? This is my observation, that people just choose to ignore all this evidence. I mean, those science articles pointing out these issues, no one says in those articles, oh, this is a red flag to about how old these fossils really are. Why? Because they don't dare. They don't dare make those sort of statements. Has science fallen to such a state of denial that all evidence that I've referred to today is just ignored as if it did not exist? And the sad truth to that answer is yes. I would uh, point you to this interesting uh, film made by Ben Stein called No Intelligence Allowed. And here he gives an example of how people who are raising questions about evolutionary theory are persecuted, fired, mocked. Um, Despite the convincing evidence against evolutionary theory, you are mocked and then fired for questioning the currently accepted evolutionary paradigm. The evolutionary paradigm is actually a religion, it appears, defended more fanatically than any world religion defends its beliefs. No one in academia dares question the evolutionary paradigm for fear of losing their jobs. If you watch that movie by Ben Stein, you'll see the examples of that, and there's many more examples on the internet of people talking about how they were fired for their beliefs about or questioning evolutionary theory. Consequently, evolutionary theory has become tautological and self-reinforcing because you you're not allowed to ever question it. So no evidence is ever presented against it. Anyone who tries to present any evidence in scientific papers, the papers are never published. So of course you're never going to refute the theory because you're not allowed to refute the theory. No one wants to question the theory. Even those who do want to question it are too scared to for the fear of their jobs. So really it's become a scientific farce. Evolutionary theory has become a scientific farce. And I think that this presentation highlights why. Thank you for listening.